I just want to kick us off with embracing community first marketing, a new era for nonprofits. We are joined by the amazing Geraldine Zamora, who's the account director with expertise in various digital marketing channels, including Facebook and Instagram ads, Google ads, LinkedIn, Twitter, SEO, and email curation. With a proven track record of success, she helps our nonprofit clients develop and implement effective digital marketing strategies that increase their online visibility, engagement, and support. And I am so excited to be joined by Emily Jankowski, who's the director of the Climb for Postpartum Support International. She is a postpartum depression and anxiety survivor who turned her experience into a career. She runs the peer-to-peer fundraising program and co-hosts the podcast I Am One. Emily, Geraldine, I'm so excited for your session. Let's kick it off today.
Hello, hello. Hope everyone can hear me. Let me raise my volume here. How's everyone doing today? Oh, having a little technical difficulty here. 1 second. Let me just unshare my screen and then I'll share it back in a second. Make sure you could see my deck. Everyone's doing well. Great. So happy to have you all here today. I am coming at you from San Diego, California. So I'll give the very early disclaimer of it is 7:24 a.m. and I have not had my coffee, but we're going to have a good time and everything's going to go well. But if I stumble, if I sound a little loopy, 7 a.m. apparently is a time when all the coffee shops open up. So I learned something new today. Let me pull up my deck here. While we do that, Emily, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, I will pop open the deck.
Sure. My name is Emily. I work for a nonprofit called Postpartum Support International. I live in Maryland, and the work that we do helps folks pregnancy and postpartum who are dealing with mental health disorders, and we have to innovate all the time in the work that we do because we're trying to reach people who are very hard to reach. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Hopefully yes. Okay. Can you all see my screen? Hope you can. All right. We're rolling with it. I'm going to take that as a yes. Yay. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, super excited to be with you all this morning and to dive into a topic that we are super passionate about at Community Boost. We've really been diving into this in 2024 and letting this be the way that we lead the industry and the way that we lead the partners that we work with. So very excited to dive in. I am Geraldine Zamora. I'm one of our account directors here. I have been with Community Boost now for about 5 years. I come from the nonprofit sector solely. I started off in more of the backyard San Diego nonprofits and then traveled all around the world, did some work with NGOs, got my master's in nonprofit marketing and leadership management, and then found myself here where I do a lot of our partnerships and strategy with partners to really be able to innovate on ideas and causes such as this. How do we build community? How do we put community first and make sure that we are always innovating in the way that we are leading the space? And Emily, if there's anything else that you want to add.
I have 3 kids and 9 chickens.
I love that. That's incredible. Well, I guess on that note, I have 2 dogs, and my 2 dogs are very angry this morning because there is a raccoon napping up on the tree in my yard. So if you hear them barking, that is why. The raccoon is apparently not a welcome visitor, even though I love that he's in my yard. I'm like, please sleep. So I would love to know, just right off the bat, what is your biggest marketing challenge at the moment? And there's some ideas on the screen for you, but if your biggest marketing challenge is something else, I would love to hear it. Somebody in the chat has grand chickens. I love that. Yeah, that's amazing. Restricted funds, limited time. Get a few more in. But I would say budgets. Okay, pretty on brand. Limited expertise because budget is restricted, global standards, limited skills. So we were able to pulse the sector to see, okay, what are the biggest restrictions and limitations? And we pulsed sectors and departments within the nonprofit sphere, marketing teams, comms team, development teams, and different size budgets. So you could see here, we had everything from more of a smaller size nonprofit to more of that enterprise size nonprofit. And the biggest challenge here were around limited time and limited budget. So there's a couple more here that I can read off. Effective storytelling was a challenge, outdated tech, lack of tech education, staff turnover, board constraints. But really, the main core challenges were limited time. The primary challenges encountered by over 5,400 nonprofits of all sizes, 27.2 said limited time, 27% said limited budget. So really kind of just neck to neck there with those overall restrictions. The vast majority of nonprofits that met or exceeded their fundraising goal in 2023 were the nonprofits that had implemented recurring giving. The nonprofits haven't changed, however. Nonprofit problems haven't changed. However, nonprofit marketing and modern community building is changing rapidly, and it's time to act. So we're going to dive into what that looks like. What does it mean to act in a changing sphere of marketing and really take community building and put it at the forefront of everything that we do? So really, the generosity crisis is upon us. Fewer people are giving more. Major donors are donating more, but there has been a 16% decline in households that give to charity. Internal and external factors are at play. You all live, I saw the chat, you're coming from all over the states. The economic state right now is not the best that it's been, right? So we really have to be able to garner support in the ways we can. And radical connection is the way to overcome that. It's the way to overcome the generosity crisis. So when we look at why people do and don't donate, there's a few reasons. This list is probably very long, but we've simplified it here to about 4 each. The top 4 reasons why the next generation does not support a nonprofit: potentially they've read about scams, they're not sure if they're making a difference, if their donation is actually making an impact. Nonprofits are not very transparent. That's a perception. Maybe they don't have time or money. And then the top 3 reasons why people do give, or actually 4 reasons, they can see that their impact is making a direct change. It's actually benefiting the beneficiaries of the mission. They can trust the organization and they have confidence in the organization's leadership. And I would add here, they feel like they're part of a community when they're donating. They're a part of something bigger than themselves that they know they are having a direct impact within. So the evolution of connection here, I would say traditional marketing has started off with this mass media idea. You cast a giant wide net and you put your ads and your content out to everyone. You send mass email outreach and you just hope that you catch a couple of fish, right? And that's really just becoming outdated. We're saturating the field. We're having ads shown all the time. People are inundated with ads by one organization, by another organization. It's not feeling personalized anymore. So in this second era here, personalization is key. You always want to have personalized targeting in everything that you do, even in the platforms where you're doing a bit more of that mass outreach. Your ad copy, your stories should always be personalized to what that user is wanting to see or how they've interacted in the past. But really what we're trying to move into is this era 3, this phase here where the individual is sort of garnering their network to be able to gather that support, and therefore they are influencing those around them to also participate, to also be a part of your community. And that's more of that influencer, not necessarily influencer marketing. We don't need everyone here to be celebrities to do this work, but they're influencing their direct peers and being able to drive in that support just as a result of them having trust with those individuals around them. So really, it's time to do the unthinkable. In order to achieve different results, we must think differently, and we must dive into this a little bit just with a new lens, right? How do we actually build community? What does that look like? So I would love to pull Emily in to share more about PSI. PSI is one of our partners. We have the pleasure of being able to work with them and being able to drive community with them through modalities such as marketing and traditional marketing, but also in the sphere as well, with Emily's support to be able to build community. And Candace, as she introduced Emily to me, said nobody builds community like Emily does. So super excited to have her here to be able to share more about her experience with PSI and in general. Emily, if you want to go ahead and kick it off, I'd love for you to dive in.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so PSI's mission is to help people in need, like folks who are suffering from mental health condition, find resources, get help, etc. And in order to do that, we in our department, we run the peer-to-peer fundraiser, and so we decided that we needed our own mission. We needed our own vision for how to execute it. Can you go to the next slide? I don't, or
Yeah.
do I click? How does this work exactly?
The next slide is mine. So
Okay. The thing that we did that felt really important was to define the department's mission and vision, because in order to create communities, we needed to know exactly what those communities were going to look like and the purpose of gathering. Without having a purpose for our gathering, whether it's online or in person, it felt like people wouldn't know what to expect when they were coming into our spaces. And so, like when you throw a birthday party, you know that you're there to celebrate someone's birth, or you go to a wedding and you know that you're there to celebrate someone's relationship. We needed to have that same clear definition for when people entered our spaces. We are here to provide peer support. We are here to talk about the harsh realities of parenting with tiny humans and sleep deprivation. And so we needed to have that clear definition, and that defining the community was absolutely step one for us.
Great. Thank you, Emily. And then Community Boost. We were born by the sea, built by community. We are practicing what we preach in the sense of we can't do what we do without the support of the nonprofits and the people that they're helping around us, all around the world, all around our country, even in our backyard here for me in San Diego. So really this year, as we were taking a look at how are we going to innovate, what does the nonprofit sector need? We started diving into this idea of community first marketing and how to drive. When you look at, or when you think about the word community, not just donations, we're not just talking monetary donations, but how to drive that overall connectedness of people so that we can scale social impact and continue growing, thriving communities. And for us, this looks very different depending on the partners that we're working with. We work with organizations who are solely focused on growing recurring giving. We also work with organizations who are mostly just focused on growing their volunteer network, right? When you think about a community within volunteering, you maybe want to go with your friends. You invite your friends, they invite their friends, and you start building that community. We also work with the San Diego Blood Bank, where they're not looking for specifically our work for monetary donations, but they're looking for people to go in and donate blood. And they're building a community of blood donors. That approach looks completely different than the approach of somebody who might be looking to get 15 monthly donors through our work with us. So all of this kind of innovated and sparked the idea of how do we continue to drive more and do more. So a little bit more about our impact. We, in the past year, have really taken things to the next level despite this economic downturn. We've raised over $100 million overall. We've worked with 1,300 plus nonprofits, and we work with some of the best nonprofits in the sector. I'm sure you've heard of Charity Water, Cancer Research Institute, Goodwill, several humane societies, Souls for Souls, and more. I have the pleasure of being able to work with all these partners to be able to drive community and to be able to innovate in this space. We host the largest nonprofit conference in the world. I'm sure Candace would be happy to throw in a link in the chat for any information. For past conferences, it's completely free. We have one coming up in August as well. Would love for all of you to attend. So
I just want to say I send folks to that every year.
Oh, I love
and they
that.
always come back with great ideas.
Amazing. Yeah, it's put on by the marketing team here, and they do such an incredible job. And the whole point of the conference as well, the summit, is to innovate, right? These are the types of conversations that we're having, is what is next? We can't keep doing things in the same way that we've done them in the past and expect different results. So how do we continue to drive change? Looking here in the last 12 months, we have raised $25 million for our nonprofit partners. And this ranges across several platforms, including Meta, paid search, YouTube, Google, CRO work, SEO, you name it. But when you're looking at this, my first thought is, okay, first of all, how, right? How did we do that? And how did we track that? And how do we manage to take these donors and build a community out of these donors? The answer to that question is we're still doing that. The work is continuous. It's not just like, okay, we raised $25 million, we're done, right? All of these people have to continue to be cultivated. And all of these different individuals and funnels take a lot of work. So one thing to note here is that these donations are only attributed from channels that we manage. The nonprofits that we work with also do fundraising on their own that we don't attribute to our work. And another thing to note is that the how requires more than just asking. We can't just ask somebody to donate blood. We can't just ask somebody to give $10. We need to thank them. We need to pre-wire them. We need follow through. And all of that takes a really strong omni-channel approach to be able to build a community that is going to continue returning. We call them brand ambassadors. You can call them influencers, but really that bottom of funnel where you don't even have to do the marketing anymore. Everyone's doing it for you. You're having people going out there and sharing your mission because they are so passionate about the work that you do that they're telling everyone they know about it. And that is exactly how you grow to meet the needs of a community. And Emily, if you want to chime in here, I know that third bullet was yours.
Yeah, to me, the other part that's key is I think a lot of us develop a program or we develop a fundraising model, and then we try to recruit people to participate in that program or that fundraising model. And one thing that we do that we prioritize over recruitment exclusively is making sure that our program is flexible enough that someone can come to us and say, well, this rule or this policy or this part of what I'm getting on board with you in this program isn't going to work in my community. My job is to flex our program to meet the needs of the community instead of saying, oh, well, I'm sorry, then it isn't for you. So making sure that we're all having that kind of innovation built in. Like part of innovation is saying, like, let's be willing to bend the rules when we need to. Because
Yes.
I would rather include everyone than exclude someone. Yeah.
Absolutely. And on that note, I would love in the chat, if you have a community, if you have a name, a recurring giving club, pop it in the chat. I would love to know what you've called it. Maybe if you have time to write in any of the incentives that you get from being a part of this network, the boosters, pathway partners. So we all have them. Not all. I would say a lot of orgs have them. I would love to also see any of the incentives that are given, because I think that's sometimes what's missing is community needs to feel special, right? You can't just say, hey, donate $10 and you're going to be a Pathfinder. You're going to be a Sea Booster. You're going to donate $10 and you're going to get exclusive access to our nonprofit marketing club, or you're going to get exclusive access to our year-end report, and you're going to get a handwritten note from one of our staff members. What exactly does that entail to be able to drive and sustain a community of growth and support? Champions of change, sustainers. Somebody said we don't. Angels.
I want to know what bed and bread is about. That sounds like my two favorite things.
Bed and bread. That's great. Sparkle Society. Cold Case Champions get quarterly newsletters with more detailed insights, a welcome packet, including limited edition stickers, etc. That's great. I love that. I'm a big animal person. As I mentioned, I have 2 dogs, and I do a lot of just work with really anything that's an animal that needs help. I'm like, yes, let me support you. But I love, there are organizations that do, the Humane Society is big as sending me socks with like animals on it. But some of my favorites are the more subtle. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be entirely costly. My favorite one is the farm that I donate to in San Diego that sends me a Christmas card every single Christmas with photos of all of their goats and all of their pigs. It is the only Christmas card that makes it onto my fridge. Don't tell any of my friends and family, but it is the sweetest thing. And again, it doesn't have to be big, right? It can be a simple thank you of gratitude to continue building that community and fostering that overall connectedness. So on that note, nonprofit marketing, as I've mentioned, and fundraising is changing, and it's changing fast. This requires a new way of breaking through, and old modalities of marketing are kind of being washed away. They're being saturated. So this new idea of community first marketing is really to build an approach to have this sense of community that is sometimes viral, that is sometimes very intense, right? It's maybe short-lived in that intensity of virality, but the long-term effects of it continue to be tenfold, and the community that comes out of it continues to grow. And I'm going to show a couple of examples of what I mean by that. We're going to take a little blast from the past. I'm sure a lot of you remember this. I share a video here, but the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, I think, is one of those concepts of how to build community. This sort of took off before viral was even a thing. They kind of built that virality, and they built awareness for a disease that had been so underfunded, and not a lot of people knew about it. So I'm going to play this video. It's 1 minute and 25 seconds, but it's fun. It's worth it. It's nostalgic. And then we'll dive into what the implications of this was and how to build off of this.
In the summer of 2014, tens of millions of us took part in the Ice Bucket Challenge for ALS and helped launch the biggest movement in medical history. Everyone from Oprah to the Foo Fighters joined the fun. Bill Gates built his own ice bucket contraption. Former and future presidents accepted the challenge. And one guy even created the most epic ice bucket video ever. But what did we all accomplish? This. The Ice Bucket Challenge woke the world up to a disease that has been underfunded and misunderstood for decades. ALS robs a person of their ability to walk, talk, eat, and eventually breathe. It is always fatal, usually within a few years, and it is emotionally and financially devastating to families. There is no cure, but there is hope. Thanks to the Ice Bucket Challenge, new ALS genes have been identified, new therapies are being developed, and new technologies are being designed to help people with ALS.
All right, blast from the past, but really wanted to add that in for a couple of reasons. Reason number one is I think the idea of community is awareness, right? You're not necessarily just relying on your own content, your own ads to share what you do and what your mission, what your vision is. You're relying on people to really push that mission and vision and drive it forward. So what happened here is, yes, it was fun, right? We're not going to have all of our community supporters dumping a bucket of ice on their heads. That's not always going to work. But this took off, and it took off in a way that built community. People were challenging their friends. They were nominating their friends and family, and it continued to grow and grow and grow. That network, that community that was built as a result was massive, probably bigger than what this organization ever knew what to do with. So when you have this drive, when you have this idea of community first marketing, you have people that are advocating for you, they're sort of being influencers for you. What do you do next? And that's the important part. And I love that the chat is still going with how people innovate in terms of gifts and what they provide, because that's what becomes important. It's not necessarily always gifts, but how are you continuing to cultivate the people that show interest in your community so that they stay for the long haul, that they're brand ambassadors for years? I would guess, and I don't have data on this, but this is just a guess based on the overall traction that ALS received, that there are people that participated in this challenge that still support this organization, that maybe heard of this for the first time and were compelled to start a fundraiser, or were compelled to ask their family and friends for money, or donated themselves to support ALS. And this isn't the only example. There are several.
In the summer of 2014.
That's not what I was trying to do. Uh, you've probably heard of this organization as well, and you've probably seen several people running around in the month of November with mustaches. It happens every single year. This same concept of community, and it is attached to something fun, right? Something silly is here for the long haul. It's been going on for as long as I can remember. And this is the exact, we want to be creative. We want to be innovative with the way that we build community, make it fun, make it simple, and have the people drive awareness for you. And I think that's the biggest piece when we look at how to build community is we don't always have to do everything on our own. I think nonprofit organizations and nonprofit individuals are used to wearing so many hats and used to doing everything on their own. That does not have to be the case, right? Use and leverage the people that care for your mission and vision and have them do the work for you. It doesn't always have to be us. It doesn't always have to be you specifically. So with that, the traditional marketing, and I would say marketing as we've done it in, I would even say the most recent future, even with some partners that still want to do marketing now, limited by board vision and by what we want to do, is brand spam. It's transactional. It's lead quantity. How many people can we get into our pipeline? How many leads can we get? We're capturing demand only. It's a very lonely approach. We're eroding trust, and our CTAs are generic. We're just asking for conversions. We're asking for donations. We're asking for people to donate. We're not inspiring. And I think that's the piece that's missing, is how do we inspire as we create community to be able to drive all of these same things? We still want donations. I'm not saying, hey, just build community, we don't need monetary funds. Absolutely not. But how do we build community, drive donations with meaningful interactions, by building relationships, by having lead quality, right? It's not always about this mass amount of numbers and emails and people. We want to create demand, and we want to create a partnership-centric approach. We want our values to be strengthened. We want people to trust us. CTA that resonates with others. We've actually tested this at Community Boost with what we call CRO, conversion rate optimization. We've tested buttons that say donate. I could think of one example with Hope for Depression, for example, and I might not get the words verbatim, but the button that they had on their website initially just said donate. Most nonprofit organizations, you go to their site, they have a button that says donate. And we changed that from donate to fund research for depression. And we saw an astronomical increase in the overall donations that were provided. So sometimes even when you just get a little bit more personal with the way that you ask for support and think outside the box a little bit, outside of those traditional marketing modalities that we've been so accustomed to seeing, donate, support now, donate today, take a different approach and see what happens, right? Test that out. And let's say you're looking at, okay, I'm going to move this donate button to be a little bit more page centric with a call to action that's more personal, and just see if the data changes. Play around with it and see what that does. The traditional marketing message is really just looking for supporter, supporter, supporter. There's one direct line to garnering a supporter, and it's not necessarily fluid. Whereas community first marketing, you still want those same supporters, but they are the ones that are sort of driving that catalyst to garner other supporters, and it's all coming full circle. So you could see this little diagram here. This is really what we're trying to move into, is just having it be more cyclical, having it be a sustainable, a community that sustains your organization that you can rely on. I know for a fact that my recurring giving is at $10,000 a month. I can rely on that revenue, and I know exactly what's coming. I know for a fact that I have 300 blood donors that come through these doors every single month. They sign up for appointments regularly, and these are the people that I can rely on. I know that they're going to be here no matter what. And that is exactly what we want to move into when we talk about community first marketing. A little quote here that I think is just, it speaks to what we're saying here, is I would rather have 1 million people give me $1 than one give me 1 million. That way you get 1 million people involved. So people that are, interested, people that are donating and supporting, I think it just it's huge. That this quote speaks volumes to what it means to have community and what it means to be able to continue leveraging that community. With community first marketing, it really isn't just a strategy, it's a revolution. We're forging genuine, enduring relationships by harnessing cutting edge technology to cultivate a vibrant community of supporters and recurring donors. So as we continue to scale, and I again want to emphasize that it's not just about recurring donors, but just anything that you focus on, recurring volunteers, recurring blood donors, recurring whatever it might be. This is exactly what we want to leverage, and we want it to be lasting. We want it to be something that we can depend on. So this path to scaling impact is putting community at the center of everything that we do. So when you're looking at writing emails, when you're looking at launching ad campaigns, doing CRO or SEO work, how do you do everything in a way that is community centric so that what these individuals see when they go to your site is, I want to be a part of this community. I want to continue supporting this nonprofit organization for the long haul. Community is core to PSI's mission. I'll let Emily speak to this, but I mentioned Candace said she builds community like no other. So I would love you to tap in, Emily, and just share more about what that looks like for you.
I think the key for us in building our communities is that we want people to feel like they have entered into a club that anyone's welcome in, right? We're not excluding anybody, but we want them to feel like that once they have joined, that they are a part of forwarding the mission of our organization, like that their lived experience, that for a lot of our volunteers, their refrain is always, well, I'm just a mom, right? I'm just a mom. What difference can I make? I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a policymaker in government. How can I make an impact? And our refrain is their stories, their lived experience, their ability to share their life with potential donors, with other people who have not heard that what they're going through is normal. That's the part that we empower them to realize, that they are not just a mom or just a dad or just a new parent. They are, in fact, someone who can make change. All they have to do is speak up. And as a result, we have, more events year over year. We use Community Boost to recruit our, like, we do paid advertising with you guys, and it's great because we get to target certain demographics, but we also target areas that we don't have communities in, because it's just as important to target those areas where there's a huge rate of return, and also those communities that don't have anything like us, any support like us, because we want people to have resources. That's, mission first.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, so some of the things that our volunteers get when they are getting into this community, where they've bought in and now they're a part of something, they get an online training platform that has resources where they can literally just copy and paste. I'm sure a lot of folks have this. It's not a new model, but we've tried to put it in a space that feels like, you have to enter a password to get in there, in order to see our letters, to see our sponsorship documents, to get access to our training portal. We have a really, really gorgeous newsletter that goes out once a month that is only for our volunteers in our particular program. It's not organization wide. It is just for our little niche of our organization. And so the people who come in and volunteer in that way get to sort of see themselves reflected in our newsletter. Our newsletter is full of stories of people just like them who are doing that work. And so it feels a little bit more like they've joined a club. They've joined a group of people that are going to help them make meaning out of an experience that could have defined their life in a negative way. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I love that. I mean, this newsletter just looks beautiful. I think one bullet point that I want to highlight here is that first one, the owned audiences, not rented. And this applies, I see this all across the board with a lot of nonprofit organizations, is this idea that we can buy community. And I honestly hate that idea. I list buying for direct mail, for Facebook audience uploads, is you're just banking on people who don't know you to support you, right? And people want to immediately, like, let's buy this massive list, or let's buy this community, and let's hope that they can support us, or hope that we can rely on them, versus, hey, it might not be the biggest list to start off with. We might have to start small, but these people, the small little tiny but mighty list, are people who have opted in because they care and because they chose to. And I think that is so undervalued in this sector, is getting people who are actually passionate about the work that you do, who want to be a part of the work that you do and want to be a part of this community, is so important. Not necessarily just going after this mass wide net that we talked about.
Agreed.
A little more on the climb.
Yeah, we try again, like it's reflecting back like who these people are. So when they click to join, when they're signing up to participate, like we want them to see themselves in our imagery. This is as much a function of like, we need to see diverse family structures, we need to see, you know, diverse faces. But it also, we want to see communities that are in a city, communities that are in a rural area. Like we're trying to showcase a little bit of everything that someone might encounter when they come and participate in one of our events, which are both in person and online. There are two components to that.
Great.
We make it really easy on our website for people to learn about our program, but then we offer one-on-ones with anyone who's interested in potentially signing up to get involved, because I think a common problem is, at least that we've encountered year over year, is people are very interested in the mission and they want to make a difference, but they also don't want to sign up for something and then feel that sense of failure that they can't complete the thing they started, right? A lot of people who deal with mental health conditions after the birth of a child tend to be perfectionists. So, warning to anyone out there, if you identify as a perfectionist and you have not yet had children, but you're thinking about it, heads up. Yeah. So, allowing space for learning more about what we do before signing up, and then also encouraging folks to say, you know what, like I thought that I could do this, but I can't. And then we just redirect them to participate. Like, here are other ways to participate. Like, it is fine. You don't have to host this event and put yourself out in doing so. Like, stay involved with us in whatever capacity you would like to, or you have space for in your life right now, you know?
I love that. I also love the idea of not everybody's going to be able to donate or to support, but people are always, what I find, they're willing to share what you're doing, right?
Yes.
And a lot of our partners, when we do year-end fundraising with them, we always have a couple of strategies. We have the campaigns that are going after the people that can donate right away and can make an impact. And then we have campaigns that are going after people who want to start a fundraiser for you and want to raise awareness for you. They might not be able to be able to donate to that fundraiser, but they are more than willing to share a personal story about how they maybe suffered with postpartum depression, or share a personal story about how they related to this cause, and then ask their family and friends to support that cause because it means something to them. And I think that is still such a big piece of community, is allowing people who might not be able to give or support or volunteer their time or go in and donate blood to still be a part in whatever way they can be.
Stories are such a gift. Like, they are the most underrated and I think powerful gift that really, like, any donor could give. Because if you are willing to tell your story, if you're willing to speak your truth, you're going to allow the organization to connect with other people who have like similar lived experiences, and you are inherently building a community, like almost by accident, right? Like you share someone's story, someone comments and says, oh my gosh, that resonates for me. You've just built community. Like it just happens organically.
Yes, absolutely. Love that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, we have a map so people can find events, which is great. You know, we've of course got like people who say things like, I can't get close enough. I'm like, pinch to Zoom. It's gonna be okay. Just um our events are online. They're also in person. We encourage any local event to also have either like a group or a page on some social media platform so that folks can connect in other ways. And we tend to find that like the ability to do that is what gets people to return year over year. Like our strongest communities are communities that also have a way for people to connect online so that they can say, you know, I'm going to the park on Tuesday. And this would be true for any type of organization, for any type of fundraising. Like if you wanted to meet up and share experience or talk about the thing that you're passionate about, being able to connect in person is such an important part of that.
Agreed. I love the map. I love the ability to, I mean, you're tapping all over the country. That's incredible.
Another thing that we do is a lot of fundraising platforms like have this setup where you can identify who like the top donor, the top fundraiser, the top recruiter of participants is. We have also created superlatives that have nothing to do with this, because I think that's so important as well. Like there are going to be communities where you're not going to ever be the top fundraiser because that's not the community that you live in. You're never going to have 300 participants at your event because there are 300 total people that live in your town. And it would never look like that for you. So we've created other superlatives that sort of fill the gaps that fundraising platforms don't meet, you know, like best storytelling online or most engaged participants, anything that, you know, like a best photo on Instagram. I mean, it could be anything that is outside of these measurable things that certain communities are always going to be excluded from.
Thank you. Oh man, I lost my little sharing screen. Okay, we're
Also,
back.
who doesn't love a senior superlative, like most likely to succeed or class clown? I mean,
Can you all still see my screen? Okay, perfect. All right, so lots of information here, and I'll sift through these quickly just so that we can have plenty of time for Q&A. But you all get it at this point, right? We're moving into this community first marketing model. We want to create demand. We want to be able to capture that demand, and we want to be able to connect with that demand. And that's the biggest piece here that I want to focus on, is that connection aspect. How we're going to drive that connection looks different for every single organization. It looks different for organizations depending on budget, depending on what they can invest in, depending on time. But that connection piece is the most important to that community first marketing model piece. And if you ever want to chat through what some of those ideas look like, I've done a couple of podcasts and webinars on what anything from an omni-channel approach to, hey, we are broke, we have no money, how do we do this? I'd be happy to share ideas with all of you to be able to support in driving that community first marketing model and to be able to continue scaling within these phases. So we want to be able to strategize, we want to be able to optimize, we want to be able to scale. But phase 6 is really where we're looking to be, is that continuous brand ambassador, that continuous stewardship, and really where that community lives is just in that recurring ability to get support from people who trust your vision, who trust your organization, and who trust you. So I would love in the chat if you can put in what you think about community first marketing, and if you agree that it is the future. If you have any objections, I love a good, healthy debate. If anybody has any objections to this or anything else they want to share, strongly agree. I love it. Yeah, we have plenty of time for Q&A. So let me stop my, I did stop my screen share. Pop into the Q&A section here. And if you want to add in your questions, add them to the Q&A section so that we could see them, and then people can vote on which questions they want us to ask. So we will start here with Bradley's question. What are some ways you get supporters to help find more supporters? Wow, that's like a tongue twister. Or share the cause other than social media sharing? So definitely a few ways here. Emily, I'll let you chime in as well on what you actually do, but I would say for us, it depends on the partner just as a whole. But other than social media, I think email is great, right? Email within the nonprofit sector is still a very strong tool that people use. Word of mouth is probably the biggest piece there. A lot of the times when you're with friends and family, or when you're going through something hard, you want to be able to connect with people that are going through similar things around you, and having that, hey, I went through this. Why don't you look up this organization? They really helped me when I was going through this challenging time. Or, hey, you want to adopt a puppy? I went through this one rescue I really love, and they had a great process. And that's exactly how that builds up, is when you build trust with one person, you continue sharing that trust with people you might not even know just because of their direct network. Emily?
Absolutely. I think using your own social networks, and I don't mean social media necessarily, like encouraging people who've been impacted by the work that your nonprofit is doing to share in real spaces in real time. So for us, yes, that looks like when you go to drop your kid off at daycare in the morning, you might like tell the daycare provider about it. And the daycare provider is then going to tell other parents when they're doing drop off and pick up. Comment cards, like being able to give out. We have like, oh my gosh, what do you call them? Almost like a business card, but it's really a resource card. Like, we have ones that say like, hey, you're doing a great job, or like whatever, because we've all seen a kid have a tantrum like in a grocery store. And so we have those for like when you're out and about, like people who've been through our programs and have come out the other side. We send them, little cards that they can pass out in sort of like that organic real life networking, when you see another parent who's having a rough day, and just say like, hey, I see you.
Yeah, totally. I think, let's see here, Anna, suggestions for engaging an older donor group. So this really depends on the age of the donor group, but for me, I would say go with the strengths of the platform. So for example, Facebook is known to be a bit of an older skewing platform. It's probably, say, most engaged audience, or audiences that donate or participate, are probably in that 45 and up. But really, I would say even for the conversion end of Meta, maybe 50, 55 and up. So that is a strength in engaging an older donor group. Whereas if I was trying to engage a older donor group, I probably wouldn't go to TikTok, probably wouldn't go to Snapchat, right? So take a look at the strengths of that platform. And then I mentioned direct mail and list building. With direct mail, this is where you can get very intentional. We know that an older donor group might be more receptive to receiving mail. There is nothing wrong with that small list if it's intentional, if you know why you're doing it, and sending direct mail to people who you know are going to receive that well, and are going to want to participate or donate or share whatever it is that you're sending to them. So yeah, look at the platforms, look at the capabilities of each platform, and start from there. How do you make your board more engaged with being brand ambassadors? Candace Cody's question. Would say, first of all, if your board is on your board. They should be on there because they were already signing up and willing to be brand ambassadors, right? That's the idea of having board members, is that they're people that are going to propel your mission forward and that are going to be advocates for you. So if that's not the case, I would start there with a little question of, who did we elect? But in all seriousness, I think when you have board members, make it personalized for them too. What does that custom outreach look like? And how do we get them involved in whatever they might be doing? So we might have board members who are parents and who maybe have access to other parents because they have play dates with their kids. They're able to maybe tap that network in. We might have board members who aren't parents, right? And might not necessarily have that direct outreach. Let's say I'm speaking through a PSI lens, but they're on social media and they're willing to share your information and they have a wide reach on social media. So making that personalized approach easy for them to be involved with. We might have board members who simply just have some money and they're willing to donate and they're willing to gather their network to also donate. So leverage them in the way that their assets or their skills really fall most into. Emily, did you want to add anything to
I
that?
like to give board members like 3 options, right? Like number 1, you can like help us this quarter by doing, sharing your story. Help us this quarter by leveraging your network for donations, and then giving really specific instructions for how to do that. I think some board members really need a guide because they don't want to overstep, or they have overstepped in the past, but they're not sure. Some boards are really involved in like the day-to-day operations, and then other boards are really more like figureheads, and those figurehead boards I think really need more guidance. Like they need more specific action items that they can, execute.
Great. Let's see what else we have here. Now I'm realizing Candace's questions are the questions that are in the chat that are being pasted in Q&A. I was like, wow, Candace, so many good questions. Let's see here. When you have limited staff time, what resources do you recommend to be able to get the support in shifting your marketing strategy? Oh, that's a good one. Do you want to kick that one off, Emily? I can add to it.
That's really hard because I'm honestly still looking for more hours in the day myself. I think, okay, so if you're working with, if time is the most limiting resource, then you're always stuck between like putting out whatever the immediate fire is in any given moment and working on the project that's like gonna push the mission forward. And I think sometimes that means that like you have to let whatever the little project is, or the little fire, like might need to simmer for a minute while you're doing like mission first work. It's not a great answer. I'm so sorry. I'm still
No?
looking for time.
I love honesty. I would say from a marketing lens, I always tell my partners to have things that we call evergreen campaigns. So we want to be able to create campaigns that are just there. Of course, you still need to optimize and do some light work for them, but we want a consistent fuel of traffic that you don't necessarily have to pay that much attention to. So if you know anybody who can set up a simple Facebook traffic campaign that just continues driving that funnel and driving awareness, you don't have to do much to it. Great. The Google Ad Grant, $10,000 of free advertising a month, a perfect example of how to create evergreen campaigns that you can kind of just set up, optimize lightly, and leave them there so that you're still focusing on marketing. It's all just doing its own work on the back end. It's essentially a machine, right? You're not having to go in there and do it all every single day, but it's fueling new people. It's fueling new audiences for you to be able to leverage when you do have the time. And I don't know when that will be, but at some point when you do find it. Suggestions on engaging younger donors. Same thing as my answer previously. Look at the platforms and look at the audiences that you're speaking to within those platforms. So for younger audiences, Instagram still tends to be a very niche platform. Don't treat Instagram and Facebook as the same just because they're under the same umbrella. They are completely different platforms and audiences when you really dissect the two. You want to be able to cater to stories. You want to be able to cater to that 30 and up demographic. That's really where you're getting more of that younger outreach. And then if you want to go even younger than that, of course, TikTok, even Google, sometimes like the Google ad grant tends to bring in some pretty young search intent. So there are different opportunities and options to engage that demographic. Anything you want to add there, Emily?
No, I agree completely. I mean, our demographics are very, very different platform to platform. I'm always struck by that.
Great. See this question here. Should nonprofits prioritize diversifying their marketing mediums to reach new donors? And how does the scope of collaboration aid in this process with mediums like Twitch, etc.? So absolutely, an omni-channel approach is really the way to go. It's rough, right? Because it comes down to the questions that we asked in the beginning of what are the limitations, and a lot of you said budget constraints. A lot of our survey individuals said budget constraints. So with an omni-channel approach, typically, tends to come more costs, more ad spend costs if you're working with another partner, an agency, or management costs. But the overall omni-channel approach is really how you're going to tap into all of the different age ranges, all of the different ways that people are navigating the internet. Some people don't even use Google. They just go straight to YouTube when they Google or when they look something up. So we're targeting that demographic. Some people are strictly on Instagram. Others are strictly on Facebook. So you want to be able to tap into every single audience and capture them in a meaningful way based on how they've interacted. And you can track all of that on the back end to see what actions they're taking and how they're engaging with your organization. And then in terms of collaboration, a lot of it comes down to data. So pixel tracking, capturing that audience, remarketing to them. I'm sure a lot of you have looked up a pair of shoes or something, and then all of a sudden you go back to Instagram and you keep seeing ads for different shoes. That's all based on pixel remarketing and audiences that are being tracked on the back end. So all of that collaboration is key to driving and pushing people further and further down that funnel to take action, to join your community, or to make a donation. All right, we have 54 seconds. Let's see. How would you advise to provide a pro bono service to nonprofits, picking the right partner to receive our help? I'm not sure I understand that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay. If anybody, Alvik, if you want to rephrase that, I'd be happy to answer it in 29 seconds.
I can talk about this one really quick. Okay, so a lot of what we do is we model what we want our volunteers to create in their local communities on our centralized national level. We model community first. We model creating safe spaces, and we do that, so that they have the tools because they are seeing it in action.
Great. All right. Well, thank you all so much. It was a pleasure being here today and chatting with you. I loved all the interaction in the chat. And if you have any questions, please feel free to follow up.
Emily, Geraldine, thank you so much for leading this incredibly important conversation. I think community building is the future, so I would definitely say yes to that poll that you asked earlier. And I just think, Emily, you do such a great job cultivating this community. I've seen you build this community over the years to be really the massive thing it is today. So hats off to you. You do an incredible job and do incredible work. And Geraldine, thank you so much for just leading the way, leading so many organizations to adopt these digital strategies and really create and harness those communities online. Before we leave, I wanted to give the opportunity for you all to actually get some time with our team here at Community Boost to get your own digital growth roadmap. So we're going to map out your strategies that you can use at your organization. We'll ask you really what you're already doing when it comes to marketing and spot your biggest growth opportunities. And you'll leave with a plan that you can implement after the fact and get that expert advice that you need to bring that to the next level.